So is Glock the most reliable pistol in the world? Some think it is. Most of them are probably right. However, it really depends on the kind of ammunition you're shooting out of it. Take this for example. Gen 3 Glock 17 doesn't like this Ukrainian lacquer steel case ammunition. I get these a lot with the Glock. Look at the primer strike. Right? It's hitting the primer. The striker is hitting the primer, but it's not going off. It's just not going off. However, I'll load this spent round from the Glock into this FEG Hi Power mag. Let's load it up and see what happens. Who says the Berdan Hi Power isn't more reliable than a Glock 17? This is a Hungarian cheap clone. $399. Let's do some shooting with this pistol. Striker in the Glock just isn't strong enough to show off that primer for this LCD. Sorry, this, what is it? LCW 124 grain bullet. As I understand it, that factory has been overrun by forces loyal to the Russians. So Ukrainians are in real trouble right now. Okay. Let's shoot off this mag here from the FEG Hi Power. So the FEG P9M. That's what we have right here. I've already safety checked it, but I'll do it again for you. Okay, good to go. You've noticed that I just dropped the hammer on an empty magazine, which means the mag safety has been removed on this model. Helps with a smoother trigger. I'm not going to go into why. There's lots of videos on why you do that. But this here is the FEG P9M. Now, the old-fashioned Hungarian high powers that you'd see were originally called the P9. And these essentially were a very faithful copy of the pre-Mark II Browning high powers. And they had 100% parts compatibility and interchangeability with the FN Hi Power. This here being the P9M, M for modified, means that there's some very slight variations. The P9M Browning Hi Power is very confusing because there are two iterations of the same pistol with the same model number, the Browning P9M, or the FEG P9M. There's the first model P9M, and then there's the second model P9M. And this is where things start to get confusing. The second model P9M uses a Smith & Wesson style locking system and a different magazine design. And it has very little in the way of parts commonality with Browning Hi Power. And so essentially what you want to do when you're looking at these pistols is try to find the cross bolt. If you can see that. See this right here? That's called the cross bolt. If you're looking at a Browning Hi Power, or I should say a FEG Hi Power, and it doesn't have that right there, you know right away you're looking at the Smith & Wesson variation, which is the second model. This here is the first model P9M, and M for modified, but it essentially has the same characteristics as the P9, which is a true copy of the FN Hi Power, with the exception of a different kind of a 1911 style slide stop right here. That's not characteristic of your typical FN Hi Power. Kind of the characteristic half moon shape found on the Hi Power. This is different. It's extended and it's much more tactile. It also has a larger safety right here, which I like very much. much more easy to get your thumb on. Well, you can't even see that. Much easier to get your thumb on this system and the slide stop in this particular model. So essentially, it is a true, faithful copy of the Hi Power with those two exceptions. The first model, P9M, which is the Hi Power clone, has a 3-dot sight system. I like it very much. However, one complaint is that the front sight is not completely square. One of the corners is slightly raised, and the dot in the middle of the front sight is not center. So a little bit of a quality control issue there. My groups are low with pretty much all of the ammunition that I've got, but that does mean I've got a little bit of metal on the surface here that I can actually file away to bring the groups up to where they need to be. The rear sight is a U notch. It's not square, so that's a little bit odd. And it is dovetailed into the slide, and it has been peened on either side. There is no dovetail for the front sight, and that might be the way I go. If I'm going to modify the front sight a little bit, that's probably what I'll do. Is just have it dovetailed and a new front sight inserted. Essentially, there's no real other things to tell you about it so far as variations from other Hi Powers. There is one thing I want to show you though. Okay, here's what I want to show you. A little bit of carbon on here. Anyway, you'll notice the feed ramp on this P9M. Notice how it's arched right here. Oh, somebody's willing to waste some ammunition out there. Okay, so this arched feed ramp, the milling quality is not terribly good. All right, and the fact that it's arched like that means that, especially when you've got a full mag and the front and the top cartridge is under a fair amount of spring tension, it slams into that and stops. It's not an easy transition from the magazine into the chamber. Not a fan of that. It was burred up when I got it, so I've had to polish it a little bit. Still not great. Sometime with some wet dry sandpaper might help to ease this. However, frankly, not too terribly impressed with the engineering considerations that has gone into that. Apparently, if you're running hollow point ammunition, there's problems with that. If you got, especially with a loaded magazine. Otherwise, the quality of the rifling is more than sufficient in my opinion. The muzzle looks pretty good all the way around, pretty consistent. The crown is good. The quality of the rifling is also quite good. Probably better at shooting cast loads than the Glock, because the Glock has a hexagonal rifling in it. There's the LCW 124 grain. You know, we're essentially hitting at the same location we were before with the lighter bullet from Blazer. However, this ammunition is it feels a lot hotter, and quite a bit of snap to it. Groups aren't too bad actually. I was expecting a bit worse. So at 10 meters, we're getting about a 2-inch group. Not too bad. Really great pistol. I have a lot of fun shooting it. There was a bit of a problem when I acquired it. I had to send it to get it repaired because I bought this used, and the chap that owned it before me decided that he was a gunsmith and he could fart around and try to lighten the trigger and all that wonderful stuff, when in fact he had no idea what he was doing. and he essentially made the pistol unreliable and dangerous. So this had to go to the pistol smith. He put a new spring in it because he had the other chap had taken one or two coils off the spring, hammer retention spring, and it was not properly resetting every single time the pistol shot. So I've got some footage of that. Why is it not resetting the friggin' trigger? We got a problem here. So a lot of people complain with these pistols for hammer bite, which is where the hammer comes back and it hits them right here in the web of their hand. I don't have very, very big hands, so that's never really been a problem for me. However, if I were to get a Browning Hi Power again, I would definitely go with the bobbed hammer or the rounded commander style hammer. So the quality is good, the finish is beautiful. The internals are rough in that you can see tooling marks and milling marks and so on, and it's not really smooth when working the slide. It's no less smooth than the Glock. Actually, the Glock is a bit smoother, and this model 1911, which is made by Norinco, is even smoother. However, it functions and operates well enough. The hammer, I should say the trigger on the Browning, is not exceptional. You're about 5 to 6 pounds, but the let off is quite crisp. When FN went to, I think it was like a 32-pound hammer spring in the 1970s, FEG stayed with a 26-pound spring. So you don't have like an 8-pound trigger pull on these things. You're between 5 to 6 pounds, which I'm happy with. The slide to frame fit. So a looser slide than what you'll probably see. So these have a looser slide than what you'll probably see in an FN Hi Power. However, these are combat pistols, and they're intended to get dirty, fouled, and keeping them sloppy keeps them reliable. But at the same time, not to lose out on the attributes of good precision, quality, accuracy. These are all double tap rounds with the Browning Hi Power. You know, you got to do double taps when it comes to. I keep calling it the Browning Hi Power. I can't stop myself, but it's actually a FEG Hi Power. But once you get a Hi Power, you got to do double taps because it's what the SAS do. Anyhow, really interesting. I pretty much a stock factory Glock 17, and it isn't like the Berdan primers on this Ukrainian lacquer steel cased ammunition. It isn't like it. I've had about 5 failures to feed out of about 20 rounds. I mean, that's running 25% failure with that ammunition. It's just, striker is not strong enough to set off that primer. But the old Browning, the old FEG, not a problem. This is a double tap target. Bang, 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 bang. And yeah, I'm grouping this a little bit low to the left. This is at 10 meters, so it's about 33 feet. So, but putting them in there, all 20 rounds on paper, yahoo, thumbs up. I mean, what's not to like? Let's do some more shooting. What if I told you you didn't have to spend over $1,000 to get a good Browning Hi Power? What if I told you you could pick up a good one for $399 brand new? Behold, the FEG Hi Power. The FEG Hi Power's pistols magazines are great. They have some kind of a polymer follower in them, and all steel cased. There's some kind of a phosphite finish on it. Some kind of round indicators as to where you are so far as where you're loaded. And of course, because we're in Canada, we have the stupid pin here for capping a magazine capacity at 10 rounds. Great magazines. The FEG will accept Megar magazines, you know, aftermarket products for their magazines. The FN mags work, and so do the Inglis Hi Power mags. They all work inside this pistol. So that's all good news, because you can't get these FEG magazines anymore, because the company doesn't exist. FEG closed its doors in 2004. But these magazines work. They work really well. No problems. Some additional changes. These are not the original grips on the FEG that I have here. These are actual Browning Hi Power grips. They don't fit perfectly, but they do fit. They're a little. As I've discovered, you got to make sure that the screws are really tight. Otherwise, these grips will start to shift and shake and move around on you. So make sure you batten down the hatches, as it were, when it comes to the grip screws. If you're not going to use the original FEG grips, the original FEG grips really sucked. Watch this clip here, and I'll show you why. If you wanted your pistol to never easily release your magazine, then this is a grip for that purpose. You can't get to the magazine release because of this ridge in the grip. Maybe they did that on purpose. They don't want you to accidentally remove the magazine. I don't know, but what a terrible grip design. Terrible. We really got to overreach to get past this. Otherwise, you're shooting away, bang, 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 bang. You can't reach it unless you change your grip. Don't forget, these were built to be a combat pistol. So you don't want a combat pistol to have really tight tolerances. And I think in many respects, that is one of the issues that some pistols that have been actually used in the military or policing field have been criticized upon, is the fact that the tolerances were frankly too tight. Not a problem with the FEG. Tolerances are a little bit on the loose side. And that's what you want if you're going to have contaminants getting into the pistol, or some dust or something to that effect getting into the action of the pistol, or rain, or the pistol gets wet. You want to have a pistol with loose tolerances. So, a bit of a looser slide fit than most FN pistols, but it does not seem to affect reliability or accuracy that I can distinguish. Hi Power is putting the brass 2.5 meters to my right and slightly to the rear. Nice little pile, so it's not spitting the brass in all directions, which is a good thing. You can find it easier later. However, no matter which way you look at it, you can't go wrong with any of these particular pistols. And if money is a consideration for you so far as your upfront cost, reliability, fun to shoot, accessible ammunition, you can go with any of these. But don't discount the FEG. This company went insolvent in 2004, so they're not making these anymore. However, there's enough of these available on the market. I mean, these are a fairly plentiful handgun. Just be aware of the first and the second model, P9M. Make sure you're getting the Browning clone, not the Smith & Wesson firing system or locking system. So that's that for the FEG Hi Power. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, got something out of it. They're a good shooter, they're accurate enough, and a lot of fun to shoot. Thanks folks, and as always, Maple Leaf up.